G'day everyone, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor.
Sam Panetta, CEO and co-founder of Aureus Financial.
And we're here for our weekly live Q&A for Ask Aureus Anything. How much should I have in an emergency fund? This is a good one too. I'm a big advocate of having an emergency fund. I think there was a study that was done, I can't remember what the numbers were, but it was quite an alarming number of people who don't have an emergency fund to be able to last them more than 30 days. And we need to consider what we utilize an emergency fund for. And generally it's for things that we want to self-insure, so we can't get an insurance policy for it. So for example, if you can pay a couple of $100 a month to insure your car comprehensively, you're not going to be too concerned about having an emergency fund to cover if you run up the back of a Ferrari, right? You would have enough to make sure you can pay for your excess, as an example. You might insure for things like your hot water system blowing up. Or one that's very common is for our expat clients who have family overseas, particularly older family, having enough for an emergency trip overseas if something was to go wrong. So more often than not, we find that most of our clients need in the vicinity of about $10,000 to $20,000 as an emergency fund. And we normally have it in their hub account that they utilize to pay for all their fixed expenses because it becomes their kind of new zero. And essentially they use it as a measure of whether they have surplus or whether they've overspent for the month. Additionally, we try and have that account as an offset. So the money's working for you, well, as we spoke about earlier, that it's offsetting your loan at the same time. Now, this is really what your magic number is. The question should be, what do you need to have available in cash at all times to make you feel safe and secure in the event of the unforeseen? If that number's 50,000, then so be it. If that number's 100,000, then so be it. It's just about making sure that it's really that immediate emergency that we're trying to self-insure for. And it's also about saying, well, okay, is it actually working for you just having 100 grand sitting there in cash earning 2%? I would probably say not a great idea. There are some other kind of things that we can get access to within a couple of days that are going to give us a bit more bang for buck than having it sit in a normal savings account at the bank. So it's about having layers. We refer to it as a bucket strategy. We have a short-term bucket, a medium-term bucket, and a long-term bucket. So it's about understanding how much we need to have in each of those buckets depending on any eventuality. But to answer your question, between 10 and 20 grand is the normal.
I don't think that number needs to be static. So I don't think you need to decide on that number and it stays that way for the rest of your life. I've found that as when people are starting on their wealth journey and things are a lot simpler, that number's a lot smaller. You know what I mean? Imagine someone who's single, no dependents, they're paying rent or something like that. That buffer fund needs to be a lot smaller than someone who has, who's married with 4 kids, with a big mortgage, and 10 investment properties. And the reason for that is the fluctuations are bigger, right? So if someone who's basic might have, 5 grand in there, and that's enough because the fluctuations are smaller. Someone who's got a lot going on, the fluctuations are like this. If they had 5 grand in there, they'd run out of money every week. So it's, as Jackson said, it's very personal and you can amend it as you go.
Yeah. I would say do a budget and understand your costs versus your income, and then say, okay, well, if my income stopped for whatever reason or something was to happen, let's say, for example, you're without a tenant for 3 months in an investment property, what would that mean for your cash flow? So that could help you give you a good indication as well.